Okay, what the topic of the shir is the seder from when you wake up in the morning until after davening in the morning. And what I'm going to talk about is things that a lot of people know, but like it says in the Hagdam of Mesilas Yesharim, that his sefer is to tell us things that we know and just to remind us those things again. So I'm just going to go through regular stuff. It's nothing complicated, pretty simple stuff. Starting from the beginning from the morning. And in Tani we know it says that davening is supposed to take a show mechza, an hour and a half, and I was told it's supposed to finish at 9:30. So I don't know if I can go through the entire davening. You tell me I can go on that, but you're not the Rav over here. So the first thing we wake up in the morning, everybody knows, the first thing we start off the morning is with Modeh Ani. Modeh Ani lefanecha, which is a phrase, which the first source of the words Modeh Ani is actually from a sefer called Seder Hayoim. Interesting, with a bit of a different nusach. And the Rebbe wrote a whole kuntris, which talks about where Modeh Ani comes from. A kuntris in Yan Shal Torich Chassidus, the significance of Modeh Ani. And in Sifrei Chassidus, we're told that one of the ideas of Modeh Ani is that should be the first thing that you say in the morning. Everything goes after the first thing you do in the morning. So the first thought is supposed to be that you're standing in front of Hashem, like the very first sermon of Shulchan Aruch. First speech is Modeh Ani. And the first action is Negel Vaser. And like this, your first thing in the morning, thought, speech, and action, all about Hashem, and that the whole entire day follows that. One of the sources that are brought, Kaddish Li Kol Bechor, in Chassidish Sfarim, they talk about this, that the Bechor, the first thing you have to make holy. It doesn't mean they're not allowed to talk before Modeh Ani, but there's definitely significance that should be the first thing. So if someone's going to ask me the question, according to halacha, you're allowed to talk before Modeh Ani? Yes, you're allowed to talk. Should you start screaming at the person that woke you up, or not? No, the first thing you wake up should be Modeh Ani lefanech. And if you think about the meaning of Modeh Ani, famous story that the Rebbe said that's his most favorite prayer. I don't know if people know about this. There was a little kid that asked to do deliveries for Rebbe Tzimchana. And he asked a boy that learned in Babiv. And he asked Rebbe Tzimchana if she could find out what the Rebbe's favorite tefillah is. So she said, I can ask my son. And she said, the Rebbe said his favorite tefillah is Modeh Ani. And those who know the Rebbe's sichos will understand, appreciate that point. So if you say Modeh Ani with the way the Rebbe's Modeh Ani is, then obviously your day is totally different. The Chidor writes, and other Svarim say that before davening you should avoid talking to your family members. Now again, that doesn't mean if things you have to take care of at home, doesn't mean you should, But I mean, it's not a time to sit and talk. It's a time to start getting ready for davening. That's what you're supposed to be doing in the morning. Way before that, there's a word in the name of Rebbe Zush, and Chassidim were very makbid on this, that when you wake up in the morning, you're not supposed to put your foot down on the floor, even prior to washing Negel Vaser. In other words, even putting your foot down on the floor. We know you're not supposed to walk 4 amas. But the Rebbe Zush, the brother of Rebbe Melech, said, based on the pasuk, Yitziyatzev al derech lo yitov, rolo yimas, Yitziyatzev al derech lo yitov, if a person puts his foot down on the floor, that means he's standing already on a bad footing. So you're supposed to bend your body in such a way that you shouldn't even get out of your bed, even not walking anywhere. Before we start with Modeh Ani, we get up. We wake up in the morning. The very first Simon Shulchan Aruch tells us he's supposed to wake up what time? Shulchan Aruch says he's supposed to wake up and be Mo'eder HaShachar, wake up before dawn. Now, I don't know too many people that keep that halacha Shulchan Aruch. People wake up at 6, 7, 8, but sometimes dawn could be 4:30. There was a certain chassid, a certain individual was very, very makbid, always to wake up before Alois, and they asked him, why are you so particular about this thing? He said, because when I come at Beis Din Shalmaila, I don't know if he was a chassid. The way he answered this question could be he wasn't a chassid. When I come to Beis Din Shalmaila, they're going to give me a test. So like in every test, they're going to start going, Al Piyas Seder Shulchan Aruch. You know what happens when you fail your test in the very first question? That's the worst. So the first question they're going to ask me is, start the Shulchan Aruch, do you wake up in the morning before Alois HaShachar? And fail on the first question. So therefore he was very makbid on this. What's the reason that we're not so makbid on this? So there's a sefer called Mishmer Shalom, and he says that today's day and age, because of electricity and all of that, our whole system has changed. The Shulchan Aruch was written in a time where there was no electricity. People would go to sleep at night, when it became night, wake up in the morning, and we're weaker bodies, and all that kind of stuff. So we have good excuses why we're not waking up necessarily before Alois. But even if you don't wake up before Alois, that doesn't necessarily mean that you should wake up. Like the guy said, Ich stehe auf einmal far netz. What is netz? Netz is a Rosh Tevis. Noch 10, or noch 12, or noch 2. So, there's a sikh of the Frierdiker Rebbe. The Frierdiker Rebbe says that those who wake up after 7 o'clock in the morning, Zen bar minon are not part of our club. It's pretty sharp. Gives a list of things that you want to be considered my club, Chevraya Kadisha, my Chassidish group, and one of them he says is waking up after 7 in the morning. Now, it takes a lot of license to say that maybe today's day and age it moved a bit, but it didn't move too far. The Rebbe once wrote a very sharp zettel to Reb Zalman Gerari when Reb Zalman Gerari was very concerned for the Rebbe. The Rebbe was davening at home after the Rebbe was nostalgic, and the Rebbe davened for the Amud all the Tfilis in his home. So they tried to make things convenient for the Rebbe. So he decided he'll make slichas 9 o'clock in the morning. Convenient time. And the Rebbe asked him a very sharp zettel with a bunch of things inside. And one of the things the Rebbe wrote, do you think it's already time to publicize to the whole world that in Chabad we say slichas almost by Sof Zman Krishma? Like, you realize this is normal? Slichas 9 o'clock in the morning? What is slichas about waking up early in the morning? 9 o'clock, you said you woke up early. Right? It just doesn't make any sense. So the Friedrich Rebbe, like I said, says 7 o'clock, but much later after that doesn't make much sense. The Sfarim bring the pasuk Shav Lachem Mashkim Meikum Ma'achrei Sheves, that sometimes waking up so early is not necessarily such a good thing. In other words, waking up 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, wake up at a more reasonable hour. But at the same time, it has a lot to do with when you go to sleep. And that's also brought in Sfarim on the pasuk in Schartichal Yitzuei Bashmuris Egabach. There's a segula, it's known, it's brought in a lot of Sfarim. One of the segulas to waking up on time is if you go to sleep on time. Baduk Manusa. So they bring this from a pasuk in Schartichal Yitzuei. If you remember Hashem al Yitzuei in your bed, then Bashmuris Egabach. Then in the morning, you'll be able to think about Hashem too. And there's a word that says on the pasuk in Mishlei Ad Monsey Atzel Tishkav. Till when you lazy one will you lie down? Takim Shnasa, get out of your bed. I don't know who said this word. The way he said it was Ad Monsey Atzel. To when are you going to be lazy? Tishkav, go lie down. Memela Takim, Memela Vest Ufstein. Not Ad Monsey Atzel Tishkav, Ad Monsey Atzel. Stop. Tishkav, Abdugay Shlafen. And that answers the question why the Shulchan Aruch starts off with Hashkamas HaBoker. In the same, right in the beginning of Shulchan Aruch, the Ramah writes, when you go to sleep, you should know before whom you're going to lying down. How does that fit in Hashkamas HaBoker? Because the only way to get up in the morning is when you go to sleep, you know before whom you're going to sleep. So if you go to sleep properly, you go to sleep like a mensch, on time and properly, and you'll wake up properly too. They go together. Shabbos, Shulchan Aruch says, you're allowed to, but then I'm not going to be able to go through my shir, so I don't know if it's worth it or not. I'm not in charge of it. Should you ask questions or not? You know, why don't we do differently? Why don't we finish the shir, and afterwards I'll stay around for questions. Probably easier that way. Okay.
Somebody told me a long time ago, when you say Modeh Ani, you're supposed to hold your hands in a certain way. And I never got clear.
There is a sikh of the Friedrich Rebbe about that how he received a tradition from his father how to hold the hands by Modeh Ani, but he doesn't say exactly what it means. Most people interpret it to mean like this. Other people interpret it means differently, but it's accepted way is that it means like this. In Shulchan Aruch it says in Hilchos Shabbos that when it comes to the words of V'yom HaShabbos, because of the words of V'yom HaShabbos, or V'yom means already in the day, that Shabbos you can wake up a bit late. So although every day you're supposed to wake up before Alois, Shabbos you're allowed to wake up a tiny bit later. Which in those days, Lo Ya'achar Zman Krishma means they used to you should daven in such a way that when you come in davening to Krishma, they should be up to before Sof Zman Krishma, not the way we do it by Chassidim, that we daven much later. So you're allowed to wake up a tiny bit later. Although it says that on Shulchan Aruch that on Shabbos you can wake up a bit later, by Chassidim the minhag is to be punk fakert. That on Shabbos we're very makbid to wake up extra early. Because Shabbos you have to prepare for davening. You're going to wake up, you have to have enough time to be able to learn this properly Chassidus, much more than you do a whole week. Either way, regardless, in terms of waking up, the Mishnah Berurah brings us, and other Sfarim brings us, you're supposed to wake up at least enough time to get ready to prepare for davening. You have to have at least a half an hour to an hour between when you wake up and davening. Because if you want to properly, you can't daven when you're still running on the sleep autopilot. So you have time, you wash your hands, do everything you have to do. So there should be at least a half an hour when you wake up to davening. We mentioned that you wash negavas. Now the meaning is that we don't say al until it's done when we wash negavasser. For a number of reasons. One of them also is that it's very hard to wash properly. The Alter Rebbe in Siddur is very machmir that when you wash in the morning, the Natil Sidam of the morning should be in a way the same as Natil Sidam L'Suda, should be 100% kosher washing. all the have a proper keli, all those halachos. Now we're so makbid that we don't even want to get our hands wet between one. And when we wash our hands for the meal, we hold a towel. So we want to make sure that when we wash for the morning washing, should to be like that. And it's very hard to do that when you're doing your negel vaser. In addition to that, most people when they wake up in the morning have to go to the bathroom. And you're not allowed to make a bracha when you have to go to the bathroom. So we wash negel vaser by our bed. And then people go to the bathroom, and then they wash a second time, and this time, the second washing is when they make a bracha until Sidayim. Those of you who think the Kavanah Sarizal, when you say Natil Sidayim in the morning, it's a big question when you should have the Kavanah Sarizal, the first washing, the second washing. I'm not sure if this is relevant to this crowd. Now, so after you wash, you go to the bathroom, you wash a second time, then you say Al Natilas Yadayim, and Asher Yatzar. Although Asher Yatzar could be as a birchas, it's not a birchas hanen. It could be Asher Yatzar in the morning is a special praise time. It's part of the regular daily brachas that we say. Whether you have to go to the bathroom, you don't have to go to the bathroom, but we're machmir, we want to do it in such a way, it shouldn't only be for praising Hashem that He is able to create us in such a way, but it should be after the bathroom, it should be perfect timing. And after Asher Yatzar, immediately in our siddur, and we're very machmir in this, comes the bracha of L'kai Neshama. We treat the L'kai Neshama like a bracha hasmucha L'chaverta, which means it's a bracha which comes close to a previous bracha. The halacha is that whenever there's a bracha which follows the previous bracha, then the second bracha doesn't have to start with the word baruch. A bracha is supposed to start usually with baruch atah. The whole Shema and Esra doesn't start, most of the brachas don't start with baruch atah because it's following a previous bracha. The end of the previous baruch atah helps me for this bracha. So in order that l'kai neshama should be a bracha smuch l'chaverta in proximity to another bracha, some people follow that position about tefillas haderech. There's a big machlekes if we have to keep that or not. Before tefillas haderech, you want to eat something and make a ber nefeshes. Like that, you say tefillas haderech will be on something. That Alter Rebbe brings on a Shulchan Aruch, he doesn't bring it in the siddur, and there's a debate what the Rebbe did when he was traveling to camp. Like in everything is a fight, what he actually did. But Pashtus, he didn't eat anything before. So that, and what's the reason you should eat something before? So Tefillah Saderech doesn't start with Baruch. You want to be able to chaparayim the Baruch of the previous bracha. L'kai neshama, you want to achieve the same thing. So we say it after Asher Yatzar. Then there's also another explanation on Kabbalah. Asher Yatzar and L'kai neshama are one set. One is Asher Yatzar is for the guf, L'kai neshama is for the neshama. They go hand in hand together. So we woke up in the morning, we washed our hands by the bed, then you went to the bathroom, you got dressed properly, and then you washed a second time. In Shulchan Aruch actually mentions a minute to say Asher Yatzar in shul. Al Natil Zayin Asher Yatzar. Now, a lot of communities say brachas in shul, but almost no one follows the minute to do the Asher Yatzar and L'kai Neshama and Al Natil Zayin. That part is accepted almost all over that you do at home. Even those that do brachas in the shul before the Amid. They say the Friedrich Rebbe walked in once to a Polish shul. Polish shuls used to daven late, but they also say brachas for the Amid. So the guy rocked up, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and he's saying brachas in front of the Amid. He goes, and the Friedrich makes a comment and he says, a klugahan, a very smart rooster, at 12 o'clock, he realized it's morning. And now you say, come on, it's pretty late in the day. One of the reasons why we don't say until Sidayim, we want to do it properly until Sidayim. And you want to do it, like I said, after you come out of the bathroom, should be a proper bracha sheyatzer, should go in the right order. In Sefer Tur Berekas, one of the Talmidei Arizal, Gurei Arizal, says that if you want the ruch hatumah to get removed properly when you're washing negel vaser, it only comes off when you say al until sidayim. It's not just the washing. So we want to chaparayim al until sidayim as fast as possible. So we don't want to push it off the shul. Now, Al Natil Sidayim plays also, one of the roles it plays is the negel vaser from the tomb of the night, but it also plays a role, there's a chiv to wash your hands before davening. As a kohen, that before he started his avodah, he washed his hands, so we also do Al Natil Sidayim before davening. But we, grace Chassidim, we say Al Natil Sidayim in the morning, and then we learn Chassidus, who knows how many hours, and then we daven later. So there's a big gap between Al Natil Sidayim and the davening. So some Chassidim had a minig to make sure that afterwards, after brachas, they would say a little bit of the karbanas also. So there shouldn't be, until Sidayim should be on some type of davening. But generally speaking, that is not the commonly accepted custom. And part of the idea is that either we rely on the fact that until Sidayim goes only on the negel vaser, or it's said on the brachas and brachas HaTorah, it's at least some, it's also considered part of davening. In fact, talking about saying the brachas, I should mention, because I don't know a lot of people don't know this, by us the minig is that we say brachas dafka not in shul, at home. Not only we don't have a minig of saying it by the amud, brachas are supposed to be said right away in the morning, first thing in the morning. Say in the morning, like kids in school, we don't do that, because kids in school want them to learn how to say brachas properly. So we send the little kids to school, and they say brachas in the school at 9 o'clock in the morning. And then this tastafai, the good kid says, but I already said brachas at home. Okay, that's our educational question, how you deal with that. But when we want to learn how to say brachas properly, we say brachas at home. The Alter Rebbe paskins that the chiyuv of brachas is b'shah should come right when you wake up. Every single thing of Birchas HaShachar is for another activity that you do in the morning. You open your eyes. It's supposed to be right then and there. So much so that an oinin, someone that was patur from keeping all mitzvahs, because a relative passed away. So an oinin later now wants to say brachas. The Alter Rebbe says you can't say brachas now after the deceased was buried, because your chiyuv was in the morning. Now it's already too late. You passed the time. So what now? After the Levi is going to say brachas, he missed the time. You could only be mashlim something that you had a chiyuv originally, but you never had a chiyuv originally. And when did you have the chiyuv of brachas? When you woke up. The Alter Rebbe says, b'shah shakam mimitasle. Afterwards, it's already just not really the right time. Someone wrote a letter to the Rebbe that he's in a shul. It seems like it was a Chabad shul, but a lot of people don't say brachas. So he's thinking of maybe introducing the idea of saying brachas for the Amud. Like that, maybe people start saying brachas. And the Rebbe was very against it. In another letter, someone wrote to the Rebbe that he has this idea, people don't say karbanos. So he wants to introduce by mincha, karbanos by the Amud. And on Friday, you can do Hodu and Paschal and do the whole thing by the Amud. The Rebbe says, on such chidushim, halavai. We should have more and more of such chidushim. So brachas, the Rebbe was very against, and the Rebbe wrote a whole list of reasons. Maybe some people will end up saying twice brachas. Maybe some people will think they just hear the chazan saying brachas, it's good enough. And the Rebbe gave a bunch of quote-unquote excuses why he doesn't want to change this minig. It's so important not to move the brachas to shul. You want the brachas to be done right away in the morning. Al pi Kabbalah, certainly like that. The bracha is supposed to be at home and right away, not later. Part of the brachas that we say also helps us accomplish the chiyuv of mei brachas. There's a chiyuv to say mei brachas a day. It's a chiyuv. It's a real chiyuv. It's not just a nice 100 brachas a day. So any typical day we accomplish that pretty easily. Especially today's day and age where we do a lot of eating and maybe also a lot of going to the bathroom. The days that it's hard is Shabbos Yom Tov, especially in Chabad when we don't eat a shalosh shudas. That cuts you down already another 6 brachas. We're short a lot of brachas on Shabbos Yom Tov or on fast days. Fast days not so much, but Shabbos Yom Tov certainly. Really, ideally, you should say more than 100 brachas. The Avud Raham brings a pasuk v'hisafti al kol tilasecha. More than 100 is even better, but at least 100. And that's something you're supposed to be conscious of. The Rebbe spoke about this many, many times. Just last week's parsha we had 2 weeks ago. All the mamarim of At Yisrael, Ma Hashem Kecha Shalom Imach. All the mamarim parshas Chayei Sarah. A lot of 6 mamarim. How important trying to get kids to do mei brachas. It's very important. The Birchas HaShachar in the morning is part of there. We get 18 in one go. If you count, really, it's actually 19. It's interesting. I don't know if people realize this. The 18 brachas Birchas HaShachar correspond to the 18 brachas of Shema and Esrei. We have a 19th bracha that was added much later, which is the bracha of Anois Ani Koyach, and we have a 19th bracha of Shema and Esrei, bracha of Elam Al-Shirim. The bracha of Anois Ani Koyach is give us koyach and the chalishas and the weakness of galus that we have, and we have a lot of problems, challenges with the Yetzer Hara, or with kfira going on in the world. That corresponds to the bracha of Elam Al-Shirim, also because of the challenges that people had. Saying these mei brachas, they save a person from death. That's why David HaMelech instituted it, because people were dying every single day. They save a person from all the clothes in the Torah. How many clothes are there in the Torah? Anybody know? 98. But then it says, Gam kol choli v'chol maka, which is another 2. That's a total of 100. 100 brachas protects a person from all those tiny clothes. The person gets Olam Haba. It's a gewaldig gesagt to say all those brachas. Now, before we get to the brachas, when you say brachas every day, right in the beginning of Shulchan Aruch, Siman Hey tells us that every bracha you're supposed to have in mind the meaning of the words Hashem and Elokeinu. Every time you say Hashem and Elokeinu, you have to have in mind very specific things you have to have in mind. When you say Hashem, you have to have in mind both the reading of the word and the spelling of the word, because the word is read as Shem Adonai, Hashem is the master of the world. Siman Hey in the beginning of Shulchan Aruch. but it's written as Yud Kei Vav Kei, that means he's Hoy Hoy Viviyah. This is not Kabbalah, this is Shulchan Aruch. And Shem Elokim, you have to have in mind that Eibush is strong and has the power and he rules over all the worlds. Now, for some of us, we hardly have in mind the meaning of the words in davening. Now, after that, every time I say Hashem Elokeinu, which is 1,000,000 times in davening, it becomes very difficult. But that's the din of Shulchan Aruch, you got to do that. So there was an author, a Talmud of Badichler, the Eshel Avram of Buchach, who came with this brilliant idea, and some Siddurim they printed, you should make a tefillah in the morning that we say for the whole day, all the Hashem Elokeinu, this is what we should have in mind. Other Svarim afterwards wrote it, the Kavanah brings this idea, a lot of Svarim come and say, I think he was one of the first to came with this idea. So, interesting, when the Rav Mordechai Eliyahu was by the Rebbe, he actually spoke about this idea of having a morning thing, and the Rebbe let it pass. In the printed Sikha, which is Muga by the Rebbe, it actually says this idea. It doesn't say about a tefillah, but having a mind in the morning. At least if you can't have a mind every time you say Hashem Elokeinu, if you're not going to be doing that, at least in the morning, the first time, or one of the first times, have in mind now that when every single time, this should be the Kavanah for all those times. The place can suggest you shouldn't use this for the pasuk of Shema. At least when you're saying Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, you should at least really think about the meaning of the words Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem. And for the first bracha of Shemoneh Esrei, when it says Kavanah is critical. But one important thing in the morning, at least have that in mind. From now on, every single time, till tomorrow, every time I say Hashem, this is what I mean, Adonai, Havai, etc. Another thing, every time you make a bracha, you have to know who you're making a bracha to. Also, din Shulchan Aruch, Sheyedel Amihu Mevarech. Wrote down Alter Rebbe and Siddur and Birchas Hanena. You have to know Lemihu Mevarech, Va'al Mahu Mevarech. So skip Pirush HaMilos. That might be a madrega for some people. But you have to know that you make a bracha to Hashem. And you also have to know what the bracha is. Bei Pri Hagafen, Bei Pri Eitz, Bei Pri Chivnim, what the bracha is on. And you're also supposed to say the words. Because a lot of people say Barachata, Melech Olam, instead of Baruch Ata. So a bracha is supposed to be said. There's a certain way a bracha should be said. That goes for all the brachas. We spoke of the mele that goes for the whole entire Birchas HaShachar. And of course, in ours, the Birchas HaShachar comes before Birchas HaTorah. Because we try to do this, like we said, as close as possible to when we do all the events when we wake up. And the order of the brachas in our siddur follows the order of the pattern, pretty much, of how it is in the Gemara and brachas, of how we do things when we wake up. We open our eyes, we extend our body, we put our feet down, etc., etc. And then we do Birchas HaTorah. In that letter that I quoted earlier, where the Rebbe says that you shouldn't change the order of making brachas in shul, so the Rebbe says one of the problems he has, you can say Birchas HaTorah, you can't Birchas HaTorah in shul. Lo yimalit shelo yidaber davar b'divrei Torah. It's not possible a person will wake up in the morning until he comes to shul, he won't say a word of Torah. Imagine what the Rebbe writes. Lo yimalit, it's not shaykh. And so many people can be nichshul, they're going to be saying Torah without Birchas HaTorah. No, so they don't say Birchas HaTorah. So the minig is you go to the people that say brachas in shul, except for Birchas HaTorah. Birchas HaTorah say earlier. Whether they do or not, I don't know, but that's what they're supposed to be doing. When we say the bracha Birchas HaTorah, the Torah says we're supposed to think about Maimon Har Sinai. The Erev on the fire came down and Kollel Sabracham gave us the Torah. You're supposed to make this bracha like the Alter Rebbe writes, B'simcha yosim mikol hanosh ba'olam, more than any pleasure, delicacy in the world. It's the greatest gift that we have. The Erev gave us the Torah. Kleichem dasai. Lashon the Alter Rebbe, Shumush Tasheba. The Erev is keli that he really enjoys himself. Birchas HaTorah is supposed to be mamash with geschmack with achayis, more than any geschmack, than any bracha in the world. And if you don't say Birchas HaTorah like that, okay, let's not talk the negative. Now, after we did our pattern, we do up Birchas HaTorah, we said a few psukim of Torah. Now you're supposed to think about the meaning of the words, at least when it comes to Elu Dvarim, because Vaydaber is psukim and Teresh B'Ksav. Teresh B'Ksav, according to the Magen Avraham and Alter Rebbe, you yotzei mitzvah of learning Torah even if you don't understand. Not that it's not very to understand it, but Teresh Ba'Peh, Elu Dvarim, which we're saying in order we want to fulfill the mitzvah of learning Torah right after Birchas HaTorah. Elu Dvarim, if you're just saying it, you're not thinking of any meaning words. What kind of Talmud Torah are you doing? That's not Talmud Torah. It's not called Talmud Torah. So you're supposed to think about the meaning of the words. And we chose this mission specifically because it talks about the importance of Talmud Torah. You finish your Birchas HaTorah, what's the next thing on the agenda? What was that? So if you're going to be davening in a minyan that davens late, so it's very important to say Krishma. Now, this we have two minhagim. Some people are going to go through the entire Karbanas till they get to what's called Krishma de Karbanas or Krishma Ktana. The Krishma Tzin Karbanas, and over there they're going to say Krishma in the morning. And some people are going to say right after Birchas HaTorah. For those who are desperate for their coffee, it might be better to do it right away, because you really don't want to put anything in your mouth before you say Shema. So, but the certain Chassidim had this thing, they want to dafka say Krishma in Karbanas. Now, in Shulchan Aruch it actually says it, that the reason why we say V'ahavta Shema, like, originally, the original Nusach of Lo'elam Yadam only had the word Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. And some Siddurim have it printed like that. Because the tefillah goes, Ashreinu Sh'anu Mashkim Marivim, we wake up every morning and we say Shema Yisrael, Yikum Tarayim V'ahavta. That's not part of it. The reason the words V'ahavta were inserted, the simple reason, no Kabbalah, was because the shul might end up davening late, who knows what will happen. So Chaparayin, at least, the pasuk of the parsha of V'ahavta. But there is an opinion in Shulchan Aruch that V'hoyim Shema is also min HaTorah. And there are those that even want to say Vayomer is min HaTorah, even though it's not the mainstream halacha. So Shulchan Aruch says, what about Zechirus Yitzias Mitzrayim? It says that if you take a really word again daven late, maybe you should say V'hoyim Shema also. That's what it says in Shulchan Aruch by Karbanas. And Yitzias Mitzrayim, but pashtus when they're going to be saying Hodu, it's still going to be four Zman Krishma, unless you're davening a shiner. But otherwise, it's going to be before Zman Krishma. And you're going to say in Hodu, you're going to say the words Anochi Hashem Alikecha. Hamalcha Meretz Mitzrayim. So you accomplish it. But obviously, if you're not going to be, if you're going to be davening later, you should say also Chris Mitzrayim earlier. So you could technically say all three parashiyos then by Karbanos. Or like I said, you could say it after Birchas HaTorah. Clearly,
also all three parashiyos? If you know say two Karbanos, you're saying it right after.
so whenever if we say Krishma to Makayim the mitzvah of Krishma, we say all three parashiyos. Yeah. If a person doesn't say Krishma Bezmana, it's the Mishnah says Mishnah Chagigim Uvis Luyuch Liskin. It's the same as having a mamzer. It's three examples. The Mishnah says things that you can never fix up because it's over. You missed the Zman of Krishma. The Zohar says a person doesn't say Krishma. A mamzer is also something you can't fix up because it's over. The mamzer was born. The difference is a mamzer. There's a famous story. The mamzer could die afterwards. But there's my Krishma. Even that mitzvah say you can't. You missed the mitzvah of Krishma. Pitl Krishma shel Shachris. The Zohar says the person doesn't say Krishma Zmana one day, he's excommunicated from Hashem for that day. His tefillos are not miskabel that day. Hashem excommunicates him for that day. Nidu l'shamayim. He doesn't accept his tefillos. The Gemara tells you Yerushalayim was destroyed because they were vatl Krishma. Saying Krishma on time is more than learning Torah, more than 1,000 karbanas. What it says about saying Krishma on time. And there were times that it's not only nowadays that some people have a problem with Zman Krishma. It's already in the time of Divrei Chaim. There was a bunch of Gedolei Yisrael put her a letter. It wasn't because people slept in. They just didn't realize that it's such an important thing to make sure to say Krishma on time. They put her a whole kol kaira, how important it is to say Krishma on time. The problem is if you're saying Krishma in the morning before davening, you're not putting on tefillin. And you're supposed to put on tefillin whenever you say Krishma. The Gemara says if you say Krishma without tefillin, it's Eidish Sheker, it's testifying falsely because you're saying Khartam Lois. And you're not wearing tefillin. So there's a bunch of answers why people are not particular about that. Those who daven late, that is. One of the answers is the fact that you're going to be putting on tefillin later the second time you say Shema. As they say, the Chayz of Lublin said, today we already know, they said in the name of everyone, today we already know that the Mamapana already said, it's already printed in the Sefer, that the Gemara says if you say Krishma without tefillin, it's like bringing a carbon without Nesachim. So the Chayz of Lublin said, no, the Gemara says you can bring the carbon one day and the Nesachim a different day. That was his chap. So say the Krishma now. Lady, we'll do it again. We'll do the tefillin later. That means we're not fighting. We're not going against the Rebbe spoke about it once. Richas Ligi Fabrengen, etc. No idea. The Rebbeim would say Krishma with tefillin. We know that. The Rebbeim clearly said Krishma with tefillin. They had two pairs of tefillin, small tefillin. They put them both together. Yeah, the Rebbeim said Krishma with tefillin. A letter of the Rebbe's father to the Rebbe where he writes that. You have to eat every single day before davening. He insisted that he fasts too much. He doesn't eat, and you have to dafki eat before davening. And just make sure to say Krishma. And if you could with tefillin, matov. That's really a bit of a concession. If you could with tefillin, matov. There is something about davening, however, vasikin. People jokingly call it terach minin. Say Avram made Shachris, Yitzchak made Mikvah, and who made vasikin terach? Vasikin says is a great Scharif person, Thomas Vasikin, but we don't see too many people being makbid on it. And one of the reasons why we don't care about this halach, about davening Vasikin, so many great things, because anything that disturbs the Kavanah Satfilah falls out. If it causes bittul Kavanah Satfilah or bittul Torah, and if people are going to have to sit and daven to the clock, Had the Chassidim joke that there's some people down to the sun and some people down to the Eibishter. So some people down to the whole time looking at the clock. The Sikhin is already this thing is have a Sikhin. Kavanah Tefillin is more important. Kavanah Tefillin is what the Mahus of davening is all about. But there are Svarim that tell us, and it's brought actually one of the Perushim on Zohar, that Amazon Zohar brings, that even if you're going to be davening on time, you're still to say Krishma in the morning, right away in the morning. And there are a lot of Chassidim that were noig like that, even if they're davening during, not on Shabbos when they're davening 10 o'clock. During the week, davening in the morning, and people that work for a living, they're davening at 6 o'clock in the morning. Krishma right away first thing in the morning, after Birchas HaTorah. And one of the reasons is because in order that every single one of the Evarim got tumah throughout the night, if you say the 248 words of Shema, it comes off from every one of the Evarim. So you want it first thing in the morning, after Birchas HaTorah, right away say Shema. Shabbos Mavarchim, by the way, we definitely don't say Krishma. We said there's two ways how to say it, right after Birchas HaTorah or by Karbanos. But on Shabbos Mavarchim, they saw the Rebbe saying Krishma. A few times they saw the Rebbe saying Krishma of Karbanos. The Karbanos Krishma. He didn't say Karbanos before Tillim. Most people don't say Karbanos before Tillim. Which means, and it was after Zman Krishma, because Shabbos Mavarchim we say Tillim at 8:30. It's going to be after Zman Krishma. So all the people that were saying Krishma by Karbanos, including the Rebbe, quite a few times they actually saw him. There's a big discussion of like Krishma Ketani, if you're supposed to cover your eyes or not. Stidus and Kisva Arizal. And it's, of course, Stidus on what the Rebbe did. Some people say he did, some say he didn't. Al Kapanim, I think they claimed in the 770 they saw the Rebbe saying not covering his eyes. So it could be tzaka connected, because if you're saying Mitzad Mitzvahs Krishma, then you should cover your eyes. But clearly on Shabbos Mavarchim, we clearly are not going to wait to say Krishma. If you're going to say Krishma after Tillim, it's too late. So when the Rebbe says Krishma after Tillim, you have to say Krishma Ketana before, after Birchas HaTorah. I'll mention about the Rebbe, there was clearly people that heard the Rebbe in his room during the week. There was Shlomo who used to watch the Rebbe in his room. There was a tkufa, they said they need to have people outside the Rebbe's room in case the Rebbe needs something in the middle of the night. When the Rebbe stayed in 770, I'm talking about in the later years, after the Rebbe was nostalgic. There were people who used to stand outside the Rebbe's room and they heard the Rebbe saying the all the brachas, all the way until the Rebbe Shema Leimer, which is a chiddush, because that means the Rebbe didn't put on his tefillin until after Rebbe Shema Leimer. And of course, they say that they heard this was during the Gulf War, they heard the Rebbe saying, Kol Dov Shai Yotzel Hakol, the Rebbe said Mitanigan, V'loi lahachmir. In other words, there shouldn't be any lahachmir, there shouldn't be any negativity. This is what people testify they heard. Before davening, this is supposed to be hachana for davening. What's the hachana for davening? You could say the Parshas Kisov, it tells us 3 things: tzedakah, mikvah, and limud divrei musar. Befrat sefer hazohar. Limud divrei musar, all the svarim in the beginning, and Hilchos Hashkamas HaBoker taught about the importance of learning musar before davening. The most important thing is to fear Hashem, which is accomplished by learning musar. And by us, of course, we interpret that to mean when we learn Chassidus, which is the real divrei musar, which connects us to Hashem. That's how we're for davening. Tefillah, when it talks about in svarim about tefillah before davening, it refers to a tefillah from Tumas Keri. If a person chas v'shalom, there was a need for tefillah, or the person was with his wife. So there's a takanas Ezra, and that's even though al pi halachos, strictly speaking, you're allowed to daven, but some poskim hold first of all you're allowed to learn, but you're not allowed to daven. And according to all opinions, your davening is going to be much more accepted with mikvah. Chassidim were not makbid in the past. In the olden days, they were not makbid going to mikvah every single day, but they were makbid to go very often, Monday, Thursday, Shabbos, not go 3 days without mikvah, etc. Today's day and age, where mikvahs are common and it's easily accessible, and the other achanas for davening we have a very hard time with, at least the mikvah part we've taken. And as it's brought in Svarim, and the Rebbe brings this also, that one of the rights to go to the mikvah every day is from the Gemara. The Gemara says that a kohen, when he went to the Azara, they made a special takana, he has to go to the mikvah every single time he goes to the Azara. That means we're going to daven, we're going to our Beis HaMikdash, so we'll go to the mikvah every day too. Some people also say Tillim before davening, but by us we at least do it on Shabbos. It's a good thing. When the Friede Rebbe came with the takana of Tillim before davening, of Tillim after davening, so someone asked, this is the same, can I accomplish it before davening? He said, no, that's a different inyan. There's an inyan of Tillim before davening, which is to cut off all the obstacles that disturb davening. But my takana was dafka after davening. There was definitely different chevres Tillim. Shabbos Avarchim El, famous Sikha, the Friedrich Rebbe, describing people saying Tillim. That was before the Takana Shabbos Avarchim. That was just saying Tillim L'Shem, Tillim Faran Davenin. Then we started davening with Hareini Mekabel. Hareini Mekabel, the Arizal tells us, if you want your tefillin to be Oil L'Mayil, to be Miskal by the Eibishter, it can only work if you Mekabel yourself, obviously, Yisrael. Atoivu, Adoin Oilam. Adoin Oilam, it says, if you say Adoin Oilam, Hashem of High Gun, then the Satan will not prosecute against your tefillah. If you say it with proper Kavanah, your tefillah will be heard by Hashem. And in fact, going back to what we said before about the names of Hashem to have in mind, the Kavanah of the names, Adonai, Havaya. So some people say that's actually what Adoin Oilam is all about. Adoin Oilam is your daily tefillah, telling you what to have in mind by saying Hashem's name. That He's Adoin Oilam Asher Malach. All the Vu Hoya Hoya V'yeh, everything is all there in Adoin Oilam. So that's a good place to think about. Okay, tomorrow till Adoin Oilam again, all the names of Hashem will have Kavanah properly. And of course, this idea of giving tzedakah before davening, which was found in the Gemara. The Gemara says that Rabbi Yosef used to give tzedakah before davening, and then he would daven, because Ani b'tzedek echzeh fanech, if you want to see Hashem's face, it's only through tzedakah. The Ben Ishchai says he should also do it on Shabbos. How do you give tzedakah on Shabbos? He doesn't talk about before davening. He talks about the fact that the Arizal says to give tzedakah in the middle of davening by Va'ata Moshel Bakoil. Supposed to give 3 coins to tzedakah. We don't do that. So Ben Ishchai says you can do it on Shabbos also. Prepare before Shabbos 3 coins and put it in a spot. When it comes to the words Va'ata Moshel Bakoil, have in mind those coins should be for tzedakah. So he gives you a trick how to do tzedakah on Shabbos also. The Rebbe would often talk about tzedakah away from the mutter, being nice to other people, sagen have good word. It's this Shabbos the good tzedakah. So we made our chanes, now we start the karbanos. The first thing in that karbanos is Parshas HaKedah. They gave once to the Rebbe a curriculum of a school about the order of davening, and the Rebbe said, why don't the little kids say Parshas HaKedah? It says, Negeas Kinder sollen sagen HaKedah, weil das ist Negeas Mesiras Nefesh. HaKedah teaches us the message of Mesiras Nefesh. The Rebbe wanted they should change the curriculum, even though they don't daven the whole davening, they should at least do the HaKedah. And then we do the karbanos. The Zohar tells us that the malachim that are there to mention all the negatives about people, if a person says karbanos every day, they could only mention positive about him. It's kaparas avonos. It's as if you brought the karbanos, you want to have every day as if you brought the karbanos. That's by saying karbanos. K'toides, during COVID, everybody spoke about the mile of k'toides. K'toides is mevatel all the magefis. The Zohar said that if people would know the power of every word of k'toides, they would take every single word and make it a crown upon their head. It gets rid of the Eitzahada k'toides. And you have to be careful when you say the k'toides, because you're not allowed to miss out any of the Samaneh HaK'toides. If you make one less from the Samaneh HaK'toides, it's chayiv misa, so you're also supposed to be careful when you're saying it. That's why people say they noticed that the Rebbe, the earliest used to notice the Rebbe used to do with his fingers, which was brought in Svarim, to make sure to count that tzriv, that tzipayr, nechel. You're supposed to say it properly, make sure not to miss everything out. After we say all the karbanos, we say ana b'choyach. Every time there's aliyah sa'ilamis, Friday night, different times there's aliyah sa'ilamis, we say ana b'choyach. And now we're going to go into the process of going up the ladder, going up all the ilamis, so we say ana b'choyach then, and that removes all the klippa. Talis Tefillin, general Chabad customs, we put it on before Ezem Mekayim, although it's printed in the Siddur before Matoivu. And people were Chassidim used to put it on later. Like I mentioned, they heard the Rebbe saying in his room all the way till Rabbi Shmuel Omer. Somebody was in Yechidus by the Rebbe, and he asked the Rebbe, why do we put on Talis Tefillin so late? So the Rebbe said, because you're not allowed to have Heschadas and Tefillin, so what? The lady put it on the better. So they say the Rebbe once told someone. Now, one of the reasons we say Ezem Mekayim is that we want to have every single day to learn properly, every day. So we did Mikra, we want to do Mishnah, Talmud. Ezem Mekayim is Mishnah, and Rabbi Shmuel is considered Talmud. Particularly want to learn about Karbanos, because learning about Karbanos is greater than learning about anything else. The Pedic of Ezem Mekayim is the only Pedic in Mishnah that has no machlokes whatsoever in it. That's why some people want to say that that means Halach L'Moshe Sinai came all the way from Sinai, and there's some evidence that it comes from Sinai, because the words in the Pedic is, it says, V'necholim Lifnim min hakloim. In the Beis Hamikdash there was no kloim. Kloim is in the Mishkan. This is a Mishnah from the time of Moshe Rabbeinu. It still has the word kloim in it. It's an old Mishnah. But you're supposed to understand what you're saying, because there's no Ezem Mekayim. Ezem Mekayim, the whole purpose of Ezem Mekayim is to learn. So if you just stop saying Ezem Mekayim, it's just stop a meaningless saying. Yisrael Chassam Sofer was a little kid. He was a 6-7-year-old kid in shul, and he was davening properly Ezem Mekayim, and like a kid davens, like every single word. A guy came over to him and asked him, why do you need the first mission and the second mission? It's a repeat of the same thing. It has all the same words. So why do I have the second mission has to be just say put it all in one. So some Sefer said, Bein Abadim Ike Beinayu. One of them has Bein Abadim, one of them Doesn't have anything about him. So whoever it was said, I can't remember, one of the Gedolei Yisrael said, Ish Kadesh over Aleinu Tamid, because the Chassam Sofer would come in as a kid, he would come to shul after Aleinu. By Aleinu, he would come into shul, and then he would start sitting down very slowly. He said, Ish Kadesh over Aleinu Tamid. He said, Ish Kadesh, but he comes by Aleinu, but he understands what he's saying by davening. Why do we pick the medrash of Rabbi Shmuel Omer for the Gemara? Because Rabbi Shmuel Omer is the beginning of Toras Kohanim. Toras Kohanim is the Chazal on Sefer Karbanas, and we just spoke about Karbanas, and we want to do Karbanas before davening. So if we pick the Rabbi Shmuel, then we say Sheibana. Sheibana, we spoke about Karbanas, should be Sheibana Mesamid, we should be able to have the Karbanas B'Payil. And then we have Kaddish. Kaddish is to have, between every Aliyah of Olamus, we have another Kaddish. That's the famous letter of the Rebbe, that even if there's no Chiv, you should try to say all the Kaddishim, because that if you want to go on from Asiyah to Yitzir, every single Olam you want to go up, you need to have the Kaddish in between.
What about Tachnun? That's what you
Tachnun?
Parts that you don't say the parts.
What about them?
It's in between each section, there's a little paragraph of Tachnun. It's like,
What's the question?
why do we say
Well, we're saying that our Akedesh Miskabel, or we're saying we would have it Hashem. The Alter Rebbe is very machmer, you call it Tachnun. It's not Tachnun, it's more Bakasha Srachiv. The Alter Rebbe is very machmer. And the Shabbos, Yom Tov, days there is no Tachnun, is very machmer Bakasha Srachiv. So others who do them, they don't care to say no Shabbos, Yom Tov. The Alter Rebbe is very, very machmer about that. I don't want to, Fish was supposed to stop at 9:30. I'm happy to continue after Ma'ariv, or I don't know, I finished the Gabida. Huh? I don't want to, this is a man for Ma'ariv, Okay, same. Okay. Huh? Exactly.